sounds the same as it was before.
The mic doesn't sound as hot, but it still is quiet.
All right. Are we live? So I just want to go on the record that I am extremely stressed out right now. My two teams, the Dallas Stars and Dallas Mavericks, are both playing Game 5s today, both tied 2-2. The Stars just won a 1-goal by the skin of their teeth game that just wrapped up, and now the other game is starting in the middle of all of this. And
I'm impressed they're still in it. I thought they were going to drop those in Vegas.
No,
Go sports ball.
Yes, and so I just want everyone to know I am very
This is
stressed.
Sports Puck, though. Sports Puck.
Yeah, Sports Puck was, but
Shows what I know.
Now we're in sports ball. Hockey and basketball specifically. Hockey is by far the most stressful sport to watch because it is low scoring. The refs basically swallow their whistles come playoff time, so it's just a slugfest, and every goal feels like it's impossible to come back from. But yeah.
So Jordan, tell them about the chicken you had last night.
There was chicken last night. This chicken was, according to reports, made by Baggins. This chicken was breaded, and the breading was, to quote a witness at the scene, very delightful and delectable. Some were saying it was the most delicious chicken he's ever made.
Some say.
And he didn't even have the decency to be surprised about it.
No, I didn't. I knew that this was good. Like that's one thing that I actually know I can do very, very well.
Which is just still shocking to me because I didn't know you could do it very, very well, and I've lived with you for quite some time.
Just because I leveled up my chicken game when you weren't looking.
Yeah, that's the part. It was when I wasn't looking, and I'm very confused by this.
Of course, it happened right as I learned I have to cut down way, way, way on my sodium.
Wait, why is this not working? There we go. Now it's working. All right, and let's see. Let's test out Mithril Zenith, because he will be joining us later.
Ooh, it moved.
Yeah, I can do stuff like that.
Why does the floor move?
All right. Okay. Well, my distraction's not aside. Let us get started. Gordon, get ready. I'm going to go to you first.
Yeah, how do I sound now first before you make it official?
Bueno.
Much, much better.
Okay.
All right. Here we go. So, that one darn boss, it can really be anything. When I was but a lad, maybe 5 years old, I had Chippendale Rescue Rangers for the NES, and I finally got to the final level and faced off against Fat Cat. And as you can see in the video here, he's not that difficult to defeat in reality, but for 5-year-old or 6-year-old me, I can't remember what my age would have been, he was far and above the difficulty of the other bosses. It turns out you can kind of control where his projectiles go if you know what you're doing, but I did not know what I was doing, and I could not beat him because of the nature of video games back then. If you lost all your lives, you just had to start over, and I had to beat the entire game over again just for my chance at Fat Cat. So Fat Cat was definitely for me my very first that darn boss. But
that was that one boss
for when I was a very little kid, like that. Like I said, I was 5 or 6. Like, and so it was just one of those. This Rescue Rangers was the first game I ever even defeated, like just completed all the way. So it's like now I go back and just be like, oh, please, this is nothing. But everything can be that darn boss for anyone for any reason. Gordon, I remember when we lived together during college. I don't remember the specifics of who this guy is. I just remember you were playing Kingdom Hearts 2, and I just kept hearing the words "dance, water, dance."
Oh,
And hearing
my
your sanity
gosh.
slowly go away. Do you want to talk about it?
So apparently there's two kinds of people. There's the kind of people like me who just like get demolished by this guy in Kingdom Hearts 2. I don't even remember this guy's name. It's been so long. I think it was like
Demix.
Demix, yeah.
Yeah, so like I had to look that up because I literally did not
I
remember.
thought his name was Dance Water Dance.
You might as well be. So there's people like me who just like melt down when you're trying to fight this guy, and then there's
liars.
then there's everyone else who seems like, oh, well, I beat him the first time, or like, oh, why did you have trouble with this guy? Like, oh, all you have to do is mash triangle, and like, what do you think I've been doing? I mean, this guy has these water-based attacks with these stupid, like, dancing, like, notes or guitars. I don't even know what the heck they are. And, like, they surround you, and you're supposed to, swing him around and hit all the other things. There's a part in the battle where you got, like, you want to, like, get 50 of them in 40 seconds. Like, that's just it showed up there on the screen. And my gosh, like, that was far and away from my top concern. I was just trying to survive because this guy would spam all the biggest bull crap at you, and you couldn't block it. You couldn't hardly even dodge it. You just had to outlast or find some better strategy or get better than I was, and I was not. And man, I had to fight this guy so many times.
I swear you fought it for like 8 hours.
It felt like it for sure.
There is a word for people who beat gimmicks on the first try. That word is liar.
I ain't no liar.
That's harsh.
Oof.
That's harsh, man.
Oof, fighting words.
That's fighting words, man.
I speak the truth.
I don't know if I did it on my first try, but I don't remember having a problem, hard time with them. But
that's not just bullcrap. That's zombie bullcrap.
Now, the one that took me forever was figuring out how to beat Sephiroth in the first game.
Sephiroth was kind of hard too.
That was hard.
He was optional though, wasn't he?
Oh yeah,
yes, he was
purely
purely
optional.
He's a Coliseum guy.
I think I tried Sephiroth like once and went, nope, not doing this.
Yeah.
No, I did. That to me, I mean, that's the thing. When I think of a hard boss in Kingdom Hearts, I think of Sephiroth because, I mean, he was meant to be an incredibly tough challenge.
Well, okay, so here's the question. Can an optional or like new game plus boss, can that be that one boss?
I don't know if it really can though, but
I'd argue if it was the way that you played and you wanted to get to this optional boss, that could be that darn boss.
I feel like it depends on what was hidden behind said boss. Like, because there are some things that are optional, but they're also like, this is why I played the game anyway. So,
gotcha.
Okay, while we're on Kingdom Hearts, I want to mention one story. For me, it was the first game. That final boss against Ansem. It was late at night. I was playing this, and it's one of those 3-tier boss fights. Like you finish it, and you're like, "Oh, I beat it," and then it's, "Oh, this is
like
my final form."
Yeah, yeah.
And I had beat the first phase, and I was like, "Okay, I need to do this, but I've got school tomorrow," and so I actually left my PlayStation turned on overnight while I was at school because you can't save in between, and that first one had been such a struggle. I was terrified the entire day at school. I'm like, my mom's gonna find it turned on, she's gonna turn it off, I'm gonna lose all this progress. I was so scared. So that one,
hiding running save files is a real thing. No, I remember doing that with for me it was I'm trying to remember what game it was I would do it the most with, but I think it was like NHL 94 on the Sega Genesis for me. And I would literally have to put a note and leave the drawer out because it was top loaded. And so I couldn't just hide it the way I could the NES. It'd just be like, please don't turn it off. I'm in the middle of the playoffs.
If you ever had any love for your child, please do not do this.
And so, yeah.
And
That was
just
a
from
real
what I've
problem.
heard about your mom, I can imagine her just being like, I'm going to turn it off.
She might. It would depend upon whether or not I was being a turd or not.
Fair enough.
It's why you gotta, listen to your parents. Otherwise, they'll turn off your games that don't have proper save files.
So
But,
are we talking
yeah.
specifically bosses or do levels count?
Bosses are more what we're focused on.
Okay. That's what I figured.
Yeah. Another one that was interesting to me was Banjo-Kazooie, the Gruntilda boss fight is so much more difficult than anything else in the game. And I butted my head against it for like 3 hours and could not beat Gruntilda. And so I just had to luckily that does have save files. I just had to walk away from it. And then I came back.
The witch?
Yeah, she's the witch. And I came back to it, and then I beat it on the first try after leaving it alone for a week. So I don't know what was going on, but it was that one boss fight until it suddenly wasn't.
You got the yips.
I guess. I don't know what was going on with that, but seriously, it throws such a barrage, and you get to these points where you have to feed the eggs to the Jinjo statues, and you have to hold still and be vulnerable while you're doing it, so you have to time things correct. And that first go ahead, I did not have the timing. And then I came back, and suddenly it's like, well, that was easy.
There are a few bosses like that. It's so hard, you take a breath and you figure something out, and suddenly you're like, oh, that wasn't as difficult as I thought.
Well, yeah, actually, one that I wanted to talk about is one of those bosses where, if I were to fight it again, I'd never, ever have a problem with it again, because it's one of those, when you understand the strategy, it's really easy. But when you don't, you just get wrecked. And that's actually in Xenogears. The boss, the first time you face Deus, the evil supercomputer that's trying to make itself into God.
That's a proper
JRPG.
name.
Yeah, and but when you first fight it in its first form,
does it look like a dragon?
No, it looks like a giant brain, honestly.
Okay.
But it has a unique property that every time you hit it, it takes damage and then immediately heals twice as much damage than you dealt to it.
Oh, that's annoying.
That's concerning.
And it keeps attacking you, and every time it attacks you, your entire team's HP gets halved. So every time you attack it, it heals twice as much as you did damage.
Okay, well, so you're making this sound like a math problem, and right now the math doesn't math on how you ever beat this thing.
Yeah, well, the part that I wasn't paying attention to, that's the final boss form of Deus, who's just a normal final boss. This isn't the form, now that I see there, but close enough. It's still the same.
You said it looked like a brain. That's sort of thought that was close.
Well, you have a team member that looks like Ganondorf. That's cool.
Yeah, but anyways, but you have to realize, and then when I finally paid attention, when I realized when he halves every one of my party's HP, I realized his HP halved too. And so you just got to be patient and wait till, everyone in your party's down to 20 HP, but so the boss is down to 200 HP, and then you can hit it. So it's just a puzzle for you to see if you're paying attention to where, you get to the point where you can kill it in one hit.
So it punishes over-aggression. Yes.
Yeah. And, it's kind of I guess they kind of did a similar thing in Final Fantasy IV, but it was a bit more obvious. I don't know. In Final Fantasy IV, I knew.
Well, in Final Fantasy IV, they give you clues.
Yeah, they give you clues in Final Fantasy IV. But this one, you just had to be paying attention that it was damaging itself. But it's frustrating the first time you go to fight it, and you're like, it keeps healing itself. It keeps healing itself. And you're healing yourself, and you're trying all this stuff, and it's just like, why isn't it working? And, I died a few times, but then I'm like, wait a minute. Do I just need to, be patient and just defend and not do... Dang it, that is the solution. And, so I'd never, ever have that problem again. But yeah, that first time, before I figured out the trick, it was definitely that one boss.
I have to say, any boss fight that makes you just wait before you can do any damage, I think that's a big one in that one boss fight. Just because it feels like you're wasting your time.
Well, that and like up until that point, your tactic has always been to just,
Alpha
be
strike,
aggressive.
yes.
Yeah.
Burn them down.
Hit everything.
And so to have a boss that's purposely designed to punish you playing the normal aggressive way that you've been playing up until this point is what always catches you off guard if you're not, if you don't know ahead of time.
The other thing about that is if they make you wait for any reason and then you die, that means you're going to have to wait again.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
Well,
it just
that's
makes it more annoying.
That's kind of the reason why, well, one of the reasons why the Yellow Devil fight in Mega Man 1, specifically, we've discussed this before, on the Mega Man collection on the GameCube, where they had the A and B buttons backwards and you can't remap it, is one of the most annoying boss fights because it has this overly complicated, just 23-step pattern you got to memorize on how to dodge. But if you die at all, it sends you back pretty far in the level. Mm-hmm. So you don't ever get to go into like a rhythm of, I'm going to keep fighting it. It's, you die, you have to go through the level again, and you have to mentally regain that rhythm that you ended up losing. Mm-hmm. And so, yeah, there it is. Yeah. And so like it comes on.
Yeah.
Like, and the fact that every other boss just appears in the stage, not this guy, he flies in. And so if you don't know that, you're just going to take damage right from the start.
And it's a lot of damage.
Yes.
I want to say like 3 or 4 hits kills you. Like something ridiculous.
Yeah, it's asking a lot. And it then opens up its eye for a brief moment, then you could attack. And you can tell like this person in the video is just using it, and it's like you end up having to hit it like 8 times, I think it is. But you keep having to go through this dumb pattern you can't mess up.
Well, and if you don't know his weakness, you got to do it way more than that, too.
Yeah. And so you just sit there, and
there was no charge Mega Buster on this.
Yeah.
One.
Well, and there's no pause buffering in the GameCube version, where you can take it out in one shot if you just shoot your lightning and then hit pause over and over again, because it'll keep
reset the iframes.
Yeah, literally in the case of Yellow Devil, because that's what you're shooting.
Oh, that reminds
his
me
iframe.
That reminds me of Blaster Master.
Yeah. Well, I mean, and Yellow Devil certainly was a reason why I never beat Mega Man 1. I think I did eventually beat the Yellow Devil just using save states on emulator, because there just was I couldn't. Yeah, I could. There's no way I could do this on the cartridge.
You scummed.
Yeah, I did.
Mental note: add saves coming to video game 20 questions.
Yeah.
But no, like it's just a very annoying fight. But specifically, Mega Man Anniversary Collection on the GameCube, because it also flips the buttons, and that's just terrible.
That's just rude.
I know, right?
As many as 10 tens.
And that's bad.
Actually, now that I'm thinking about, having to use save states to beat an NES boss, that actually does remind me of one. Dark Link from Zelda 2: Adventure of Link.
Okay, now that's a famous one.
I even with save, if I'm honest, I'm like, okay, I have save states now. I'm gonna finally beat this game, because I actually got to that, like the end of that game multiple times, and that game's especially bad because like if you get a game over, or if you turn off the game, like you have to. It is not easy to get back to the final boss. Like you have to trek through all of Hyrule from the starting palace. And even with save states, I'm like, fine, I knew the trick that you could duck in the corner and cheese it. And even with save states, I eventually gave up, ducked in the corner, and cheesed it. Because I couldn't, even to this day, without just ducking in the corner and being cheap, you just duck in the corner in the bottom left corner, duck down and just attack and just let him keep running into your sword. That's the only way I've I wasn't able to get good enough, even save scumming. I had to do that, which works. It's an effective strategy, but it's cool though to see someone actually do it legit and not just duck in the corner. But yeah,
Some people
I
are good at
did
stuff, not me.
But yeah, I was never able to beat this game as a kid, and finally did it as an adult on an emulator. But yeah, but the punishment for failure, just having to start back at the beginning of the game. I mean, you don't have to play the whole game again, but physically travel from the beginning is just such a pain.
Well, and that's another thing that can make that one boss so much worse, is if it's got a bad point you have to go back from.
Absolutely.
Which
or a long cutscene.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unskippable cutscenes.
Well,
Which
I think that was what made Dimmick so egregious, is when the people that when you did fail, you had to watch that long
Yeah, you
cutscene again.
did have to watch. Oh, that's.
Did you get to skip cutscenes in Final Fantasy X? I'm trying to remember.
You did not.
Okay, I want to transition to Seymour.
Okay.
Freaking Seymour.
I had the video
So,
somewhere there.
it's-
No.
It's been forever since I played this. I just remember absolutely hating this boss, especially because if I'm remembering right,
You fought
they
him
give you-
19 times.
they get well no.
Whoa!
Stable.
They gave me they give you a character who's not super leveled up at that point right beforehand, and so it's just like why are you here? And it was just it was so frustrating when you fight him in the mountains.
That's the one I got.
Oh yes. That is a major spike for sure.
It was just like this is
Death
not the
awaits
same
you.
game I was just barely playing.
No, it's so annoying because he just banishes your summons, which are an important part
Yes.
of the game.
Oh, yeah, that's right. That is
It's
something
like
that
you have been trained up to that point to use your summons, to rely on them, and at this point it's just like, no, you don't get to do that. And you're like, but that's how you taught me to play.
Yeah, my summons are HP sponges. Why are they not HP sponges anymore?
It's like,
No.
you don't get to play today.
No, so the way I beat him basically every single time was I would level up the limit breaks on all my summons, because you would get one attack with them before he banishes them, and I would just go through all the summons and just use their limit breaks. Because I couldn't figure out any other way. Now, to be fair, I was not someone who played a lot of JRPGs at all. I didn't understand mechanics. I probably wasn't using the sphere grid properly. But the other thing that made it horrible, just I hate looking at his stupid face and his haircut that looks like the legs of an ing.
Yeah,
Like-
His voice.
That's the thing.
He
I don't
sound-
remember having trouble beating him, but I just remember I just hate encountering him. Period. 'Cause
Well,
he's
it's
just-
like they
Well,
they just looked at him and said, okay, wait, Sephiroth was really popular and so was Kefka. What if we made Sephiroth dress like Kefka? And you're just like, what is this garbage?
No, his voice drove me crazy because he basically sounds kind of like the aliens from Galaxy Quest. Because he talks like this, and it just doesn't really flow. It almost sounds like they're trying to make it melodic, but he sounds kind of congested at the same time. And oh gosh, it just makes my skin crawl.
even as much as I don't know, I'm trying to think if he's better or worse than Kuja from FF9 though.
Well, I mean, he wasn't voiced at least.
Yeah,
So.
but Seymour at least, even though I hate his outfit, but at least it's not a I don't know what do you call that, a cod piece. So at least he has that going.
Kuja's was pretty striptacular.
Yeah.
There is nothing that drives me more insane with Final Fantasy outfits than dudes who are wearing shirts that don't cover any of their chest. It just annoys me as an article of clothing. I'm just like, that's impractical. I don't like it.
Did you not like Aladdin? I guess.
No, but so
deeper-
he's just wearing a vest. Like that's all Aladdin's wearing. This guy's wearing like a full jacket that somehow doesn't cover any of his torso.
The deeper the plunge, the more evil the character.
Exactly. And it
Yeah.
works men and women. No, it's just one of those things. It annoys me because I think it looks stupid. It has nothing to do with like, oh, it's style or a choice. It's just like, no, it's dumb and I hate it.
Well, the thing is, I remember when I was playing 10, the first time I saw Seymour, he's not presented as a bad guy. He's supposed to be like considered a good guy. But as soon as I see him,
you even
I
get to
look at
control
him
him
the first time, and I'm just like,
It's like,
I
oh,
want
you're
a
like
bad guy.
Pooja. Yeah, that's what I
This
thought.
guy's a bad guy. This
Like,
guy's,
I wanna
this
fight
guy's
you.
the villain.
Yeah, no,
Clearly.
But again, like with the plunging neckline, like if you look, yes, Titus or Titus or however you pronounce it, he's got a deep neckline, but he's at least wearing the cummerbund of righteousness. You know, so
no, it drove me nuts. And then on top of it, it has just, again, he has that stupid, oh, I'm going to banish all your summons mechanic when they've trained you. You know, that was similar to what Lunasar was talking about with his Xenogears boss, where they train you to fight one way, and then suddenly they ask,
JK.
yeah, it's like, no, you don't, now we're going to make you fight a different way. And it's like, but then why did you train me to fight this other way? I don't feel like I was trained proper to handle this. I feel like this is bad game design on your part. Or artificial difficulty where it's like, because that's the other thing. I've complained about Seymour before and had people just be like, well, you just got to over level him. And it's like, that's not good game design.
nope.
Yeah, it's a crutch.
Like I understand if you have to level up to a point where you can fight him, sure, but like there's a degree where you can go to that. Like it was interesting. I know Looney's played this Crystallis. There are certain enemies where you just cannot damage them unless you've leveled up.
Oh yeah, no, and then there's like an entire boss, there's an entire point in the game that if you're not leveled,
There's a few of them.
If you're not high enough level, you cannot do damage. It's physically
But
impossible.
at least it's very, very blatant because when you attack them, you hear the little ping sound that means you didn't do any damage. You ain't strong enough. Come back, weakling.
Though, if it, in the case of it being a boss, it's like, oh, I kind of have to get a game over because I can't leave. But
Yeah, but I mean, in this one though, like you just don't know. Like it's just bad design. It really is.
No, well, so there's the reverse that happened though to my friend, who he was playing Final Fantasy X and was telling me like, oh, this game is so stinking hard, and I'm like way further than him, and I'm like, really? Because I knew he played these games more, this style of game more often. I'm like, I haven't, because I hadn't encountered Seymour yet.
Please tell me he forgot to equip his gear.
No, what it was I was just like, well, why are you struggling so much? And then I just asked, I'm like, what are you doing on the sphere grid? He's like, the sphere grid.
oh no,
And I'm like, what's the sphere grid? And I'm like, did you just, cause I felt like it was impossible to miss it, but he might have just like tapped through it because he was older than me. He had kids and stuff. And so he might have just like been dealing with kids and just sort of accidentally tapped through it, not understanding what it was. Cause I then went through and he had so many levels of the sphere grid that he hadn't done anything. And he then cakewalked his way through the rest of the game because he was like 15 levels too high for anything.
Well, I mean, that is the equivalent of never changing your starting equipment, basically.
Yeah.
That's part of what made Kingdom Hearts so hard for me at first, as I kept forgetting to like equip new things.
Yeah, and then suddenly you take the weights off like you're Rock frickin' Lee, and
you're like, oh, I can take this off?
dun, 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 dun. It's like, what is this god that we faced off? It's like, well, unfortunately, you're fighting against the One Punch Man now, so here we go. But yeah, no, and so RPGs are an interesting one with just that one boss because especially JRPGs with their turn-based nature, it can really just lend to, we just kind of gave this thing its own unique mechanic that no one else gets to have.
Well,
And you had no way of preparing for beforehand.
Yeah, well, speaking of RPGs and difficult bosses, have any of you played Legend of Dragoon?
I have watched my brother play that.
I have never even heard of this.
It has a cool.
This is
like,
PS1, right?
Yeah, PS1 Legend
That's
of
a
Dragoon.
cool timing mechanic to the attacks.
Yeah, it did. Some of them got kind of hard towards the
Oh,
end.
yeah, some of them were like you had to get like 10 in a row.
Yeah, it's like
It's like a DDR fight in the middle of an RPG or something.
yes.
Sometimes, yes.
That's how you attacked. Like you didn't just select attack. You selected what type of DDR combo attack am I using, and you have to succeed to do a decent amount of
up,
damage.
down, left, right, and bring down your stratagem.
So everyone is Sabin from FF6?
Yes, and
Everyone just skipped over his Helldivers joke, and I'm mad about it. Anyway,
I'm sorry, I haven't. I don't have.
I haven't even played Helldivers. I just know.
get into it. I was playing with Tyler. It's great.
Oh my gosh.
But in Legend of Dragoon, I kind of feel like every boss is that boss, and especially the final boss. And I'll
Does
explain
it
why
count
this-
if every boss is that one boss?
Well, okay. So the way this game is set up is you can expend whatever your resource, probably magic, and you can transform into your dragoon form, right? Where you get access to spells and stronger attacks. Right?
Persona!
But here's the problem. You can only defend when you're and you last 3 turns in that form. But you can't defend when you're in that form. So you have to be in just normal human on foot form to defend. But the way that game is set up is they designed it to where you're supposed to take a ton of damage. So when you defend, you actually recover 25% of your health. So
Okay.
it's one of the few RPGs where you defend all the time, because usually you like hardly ever do. And when you first get the ability to form into the dragoon, you're like, cool, I got the power. Like I got MacGuffin power now. This is awesome. And you go into a boss fight and you're like, yeah, I'm saving it for the boss. This is going to be great. And so you get your whole party, you get into dragoon form. You're like, yeah, I'm going to tear up this boss and do some serious damage. Well, here's the problem. Since your primary form of healing is defending, and now I just made it so my entire party has 3 turns where they're not allowed to defend, and I swear every boss is designed to be able to kill you in less than 3 turns. So it's like the main power that they give you in the game, they punish you for using. It's like I only use it like this supreme dragoon power when I'm fighting mooks, where I'm not afraid of dying. And because you're not able to use your stronger moves, because you're staying on foot form to be able to heal, you a lot of these boss battles just take forever because it just becomes a battle of an attrition. And the final boss in particular, I know when a friend of mine back in high school, when he finally beat it, his sister was telling me that it took him like at least an hour to kill the boss. And when I fought it, I finally beat it. It was like I was fighting that boss for at least 45 minutes. I didn't die to him, but I came close several times. And the thing is, it's like if you die half hour into an hour-long fight, it's like you have to start over that fight. It's like, thank goodness I was careful, but it's like I can't even use the special power in the game because I'm, depending on defending all the time to heal. And so it's like, for that reason, I kind of feel like every boss is that boss, but especially the final boss, because it's like an hour long if you mess up.
I remember watching my brother fight one of those bosses, I guess. And this boss had like a mechanic where once you transform into the dragon mode, he immediately performs an insta-kill move on that dragoon. But my brother found out that he had an item
I probably
would
didn't even notice
prevent.
because I'm afraid to go into that mode against the boss.
My brother found that he had an armor slot or something, or an accessory or something that would prevent an insta kill from happening, and so it found out that it broke the AI because he was so bound and determined to kill that one dragoon that that's all he would do is try to do the insta kill, which would fail every time. And then my brother was able to just mop him up with like normal weak attacks because he wouldn't pay attention to anyone else.
Well, that's cool. I
got a big kick because he kept being like, "Oh, you dragoon, die!" You go bam, 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 and it like does 0 damage, and you're just like, "Oh my gosh, he keeps doing it."
That's awesome. If it was the final boss, that'd be a great.
It was like midway though, so yeah, midway. I don't know.
Yeah,
it's not the type of game Midway normally makes.
Nice.
See, it's funny because Midway's a game company.
I'm like trying. Were they a sports? Were they sports?
No, they were
everything.
They were Mortal Kombat, dude.
Oh yeah, okay.
Fighting games, sports games. I believe they all. Didn't they also do NBA Jam? Like I did think they did do sports games.
I think they may have done NBA Jam.
Yeah, they may have been NBA Jam.
Yeah, I feel like the sports is what I remember. Maybe it's because of NBA Jam.
Okay, so something else that we were discussing that came up was you go into a boss fight and you just don't know. Like Yellow Devil, you don't know that he's not just going to appear to your right like everyone else. Suddenly he appears from the left and just gets a free shot at you. Not having the knowledge definitely matters in some of these boss fights. And one of the most important ones that it received legendary status is Whitney from Pokemon with her stupid Miltank. And it's something that I don't think like kids who grew up with Pokemon and knew about Whitney can fully appreciate how stupid that boss fight was to force on us. Because in Gen 2, they introduced a mechanic. It's called gender, which you're like, that's really not that insane of a mechanic. Like, it is. It is when there's moves like Attract that make it so if they're the opposite gender, there's just a 50% chance your dude just won't attack. And have you been paying attention to the gender of your Pokemon? Not even a little bit. It'd be a shame if her Miltank had a move that slowly built up in power that was a rock type, and you picked Cyndaquil, who's weak to rock types, and you can't get any fighting types to beat up her normal types. And there's very few Pokemon who have fighting moves, and the one fighting Pokemon you can get at the time is a Machop. But what are the odds you're going to actually trade for a Machop, which has a 75% chance to be male anyway, by the way, by getting an Abra or a Drowsy, because you just got Pokemon Gen 2. You're not going to be sitting there playing around with the old Pokemon. You want the new Pokemon. And then the whole idea of what rollout does is just, it's mean because it was just a mechanic that also didn't exist. Like, oh yeah, it's just double every single time. They don't explain how it works or how Attract works. It's just, they just tell you, play with these things. And it's like, okay, what does that do? And I don't know, it's Pokemon, figure it out. And then Miltank also has a healing move. And she has 2 super potions. So even if you start chipping away, it's just going to go right back up. It's annoying.
Wait, did you say you could have Abra at this point?
No, so you had, in order to get the Machop, you would have to trade for it in Goldenrod, which you'd have to even know that you could do that. Which it's just somewhere in the store, so you have to just talk to everyone on every level to try and find this person. And
which I do.
You
absolutely do.
Yeah, but it's just a random shop in Goldenrod, but you have to have an Abra or a Drowsy. I think it depends upon your which version you have. And especially if it's Abra, everyone knows how difficult it is to actually catch an Abra.
Well, I mean that's my favorite Pokemon line. So I always made a high priority of it. So if I could have had a Alakazam in this fight, I probably did.
Yeah. And so you probably wouldn't have traded. And then on top of it, the bigger issue is if you caught an Abra or a Drowsy specifically to trade, when you trade, what you get is the same level. So you probably have some low level, and now you have to spend a bunch of time leveling it up to where you can actually make use of it. And so it's basically one of these things where if you know what it is going into it, like if you know what attract is, and you like, so you need to actually pay attention to the gender, and you know what few fighting type moves you can get, you can actually do it. But like you'd have to actually know that that's how these things work. Like, I don't know. Like, did you play Gen 2 when it came out, Lizzie?
Well,
I did not know.
Okay.
that's the thing. It's like I'm thinking, like, I wonder if it is a little bit different in the DS remakes, because that's the one me and Lizzie played was the DS remake.
Well, so
Yeah.
one of the
Heart
things
Gold,
in the
Soul Silver.
one of the
Yeah.
things I know, in one of the things with the DS remakes is it has one of the items it holds, it negates one status effect. So it also negates one of the strategies, which is to paralyze it. Because you have to basically hit it with 2 status effects before it'll ever take effect. And so I think the bigger thing is you just know it's like, okay, rollout's coming. I need to prepare for rollout. And just by that fact alone of knowing what you have to prepare for, you can level up your team. But if you don't know that, you don't know you need, hey, let's have some good female Pokemon. Because I didn't even bother looking at gender at all unless it was going to the breeding center.
I didn't. I don't remember having to prepare special for that fight, but it could just be easier on the DS remakes. That's entirely possible.
It might be, but I just know the other thing was just attract was maybe that move is nerfed as well. I don't know if it's still the exact same as it is now. But just a 50 chance that you won't do anything is a pretty dang strong status effect that doesn't, that isn't tied to any typing at all. That's the other thing that made it so stupid is normal. I think for most of the people my age, we thought it was kind of a joke typing.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
I never keep normal types in my party unless it's got a secondary something.
And so I didn't prepare all that much. And especially when she shows up with 2 Pokemon. It's like, here's this Clefairy, here's a Miltank. Now, the Clefairy is actually also deceptively a problem because the Clefairy has Metronome. And so sometimes it would just Metronome, do explosion, and just murder one of your big Pokemon just out of nowhere. And you're just like, dang it. And then the other thing was the Miltank was surprisingly fast, so it typically would get the first shot off. It was just one of those things where I had no clue what I was getting into. The way I ended up finally solving it is I ended up just going around and capturing Pokemon that were that were female, so that I didn't have to deal with attract. Although probably the real strategy would have been to get a Diglett and just dig so that rollout would stop gaining momentum. But again, they don't explain that's how the move works, because Pokemon just says, here's the deep end, go.
Well, I'm just thinking, if I could have had an Alakazam, I probably would have had one. If I could have had a Diglett or Dugtrio, I probably would have had one of those too.
See, and I know I wouldn't have, because of just the fact of that's one of the old Pokemon. Who wants that? I want the new stuff.
I tend to gravitate towards my original Gen 1 team, so yeah. I know that's probably an attitude. I probably should have more of your attitude. Like, I'm going to try new Pokemon.
Yeah, I wanted all the Digimon.
But once I try a new one, I'm like, the Gen 1s are still better, and I end up using them.
All right, Mithril, welcome. Did you play this on release?
I did, but I do not remember since I was like 6 years old at the time what my experience was. Outside of, I think I had a Geodude or something, and I was trying to get Magnitude to work, and eventually it hit a Magnitude 10 like twice in a row, and I won, but it took a couple tries, I think is what happened, but it's a real faded memory at this point.
Gotcha. Well, that is a
Having
strategy as well.
Geodude- and Geodude would take reduced damage to roll out, so that helps too.
Yeah, but at the same time, Geodude's one that doesn't tend to do a lot of damage, so yeah, going the high roller strategy isn't a bad idea. But no. Anyway, Whitney caused me problems. I was part of that group that just ran into it. And it was the fact it was a stupid cow that drove me so insane.
Wow, you have issues with bovines in Pokemon, don't you?
Yeah, I didn't really think
Tauros
about it,
and-
but yeah, Tauros and Miltank
Tauros and
for completely
Miltank.
different reasons, but yeah.
I think another thing about Whitney is that it's another example of how, I guess maybe not another, it's one of the examples of how in Gen 2 choosing the fire starter is pain,
Yes.
but they're Gen 2, generally the fire starter is actually pretty good, at least compared to Gen 1, but Whitney is the big exception to that.
Yeah, because it's weak to the rock type.
Rock type.
Or the rock type move. Because that's the other issue is I just never would have prepared for a rock type move. Heck, I wouldn't have known it was a rock type move.
Nope.
That's probably half of the problem. Because they don't tell you. It's not like there's like a... Unless you get the move, you can't see that stuff. This is where the modern internet's just so much better for this stuff.
Yeah,
You just go to
kids nowadays
Bulbapedia.
will never understand the pain of just going through not knowing anything and not having any resources that are trustworthy outside of stuff like, oh hey, one of my friends told me this was the case, and half the time it's bogus anyway.
Yeah, though that's the bigger issue. You can't trust it. But no. All right, Lizzie, what do you got for frustrating boss fight?
I'm gonna bring up the Moldorm from Link to the Past.
The Moldorm.
It's the
It's
top,
the hamburger worm.
the Tower of Hero battle.
Ah, okay.
Yeah.
It's one of those, you understand what you need to be doing. You think it's not going to be that hard, but then it just bounces you and you fall off the platform. And
I
you
had
have
no
to
clue it was
start.
called Moldorm.
I looked it up just so I would know what to call it, but I've always called it like the hamburger worm because it looks like a hamburger.
Okay, I never would have made the connection to a hamburger, but now that you say that...
Well, especially look at have you played Link Between Worlds?
No, I have not.
It really, really looks like a hamburger in that upscaled version where it looks like lettuce is coming out of the sides. It's something else.
Who are you people?
But yeah, that one, like I said, the concept's super easy, but you get knocked off the platform and suddenly you're not in the boss room anymore.
No,
You gotta walk all the way back and start over.
Well, and the fact that they
Walk the chain.
programmed it so that you can't attack it from above.
Yeah, and
They make you get into the arena with it. And then sometimes, that's right. Oh my goodness, it just happened in the video. Sometimes you fall down multiple holes.
it's like
Yeah.
the thing is, he's not that hard. It's just, it's not even. Instead of punishing you for dying, it's like punishing you for making the slightest mistake and eating up your time to go back and start the fight over because he's recovered at full health every time.
See, this is one, it was hard when I played it at like age, 8 or 9 when it came out, but at this point it's just it's really nothing.
Yeah. When I first played this, I was playing on an emulator and I eventually got to the point where I'm like, I'm using save states. I did damage, save. Oh, I got knocked down. Okay, load that save state. Try again.
And then there's the fact it gets faster after each hit.
Well, and then there's just that one little random hole in the middle. Like everything else is the edge, but there's a little hole in the middle too.
And if you go down that hole, you don't just fall down one floor, you fall down two.
It's kind of evil and genius as far as we're going to piss you off with this boss fight. We're going to inconvenience you constantly. I forgot about this until you brought it up. Oh, that's good.
Yeah, it's just there's a few of those Zelda fights, those bosses that they're really scary until you know how to beat them, or they're just really annoying doing stuff like this.
Well, yeah, I mean, it's like in the newer, Tears of the Wild, the
Tears of the
Lionels.
Kingdom.
Yep. Well, I purposely mished
He
the two together.
combined
Oh,
the
that
two
was a
games.
purposeful thing. Okay.
That was purposeful because in the first one it's the Lionels, which are still in the second one. In the second one it's Gleeoks, where it's like the first time you encounter them, they are terrifying. And the first time you try to fight them, you get slaughtered. But then after you've kind of gotten their patterns down, you're like, okay, what are you gonna do? I want to have some fun. I'm gonna go hunt Lionels. I'm gonna go hunt Gleeoks. Just do it for fun. And it's not because your character got stronger, but because you learned how to fight them properly.
And then there's our friend Breakfast, who decides to fight the Colosseum Lionel with basically early game weaponry for the first time he fights a Lionel, and he's just like, I'm gonna solo him.
I'm gonna beat this with 4 hearts.
It's let me solo him, guys.
Well, like I mean the Guardians, they're terrifying the first time too in the first game, and when
fast.
I replayed it on the Switch, I just went straight for the Guardians, fighting them with nothing but a pot lid.
Well, and the music changes right as they come after you too, and it's just like, no.
It's terrifying when that music shifts and you're like, where is it? Ah, it's gonna shoot me.
For those asking in chat, yes, Breakfast did eventually take down the Lionel with only 4 hearts.
He definitely did it.
Well,
now,
also,
did he brute force it? Yes, but he did it.
Well, likewise.
What do you mean brute force it?
Fight him over and over and over again.
Oh, but he did end up doing it.
He did end up doing it.
He broke every single weapon in his arsenal, but he took it down.
Well, likewise, on the Great Plateau, there's a stone talus in the first game, and I decided to kill it. Most people will be like, you could just come back later when you're stronger. No, I killed it while on the Great Plateau. And that was hard. I probably died more times to that enemy than any other enemy in the entire game.
Yeah, my playthrough of Breath of the Wild, I avoided Lionels, and as you progress through the game, get more hearts and stuff, the Lionels will change color and become more difficult. So I didn't actually fight one until it was at the 3rd level. I think, what is it, blue or something, white. But the only reason I finally was able to feel okay facing one of those is because I had watched Loonsar play, and I was like, oh, you make it look so easy. You just have to do the timing here. And there are majority of Legend of Zelda bosses I have had an easy time fighting because I have watched someone else do it first.
Well, I mean, and that's the way a lot of Zelda bosses are. I actually, speaking of the same friend that spent an hour fighting the last boss of Legend Dragoon, that exact same siblings, one of them would be playing Zelda, and it'd be that one boss where they had to take it try it 15 times and they finally got it, and then the other plays it and they're like, why was it so hard? I got it my first try. It's like, because you saw me solve the puzzle of how to kill it. Jeez, come on.
I will say, I one time did that to our friend Mark. That was a level. He was playing Mario Galaxy, and it was the one where you're playing on the 8-bit Mario level, where all the platforms rotate and stuff and slowly disappear. You gotta get 100 coins or whatever. Now, that was just because he wasn't used to playing 3D platformers at all. And so I'm watching him do it. I'm like, this doesn't look so hard. And he's like, I'd like to see you do it. I'm like, okay. And so I get on, I do it once. And then his response was, well, that was too easy. I prefer to see Mario suffer for those stars.
Oh, that was a quote wall one.
Yes, it was. I asserted my gaming authority at that moment, and that was important.
But man, I swear, having expectations about the boss makes all the difference. Because this reminds me of one that I still haven't killed because I thought I did, but the Rebel flagship in FTL.
You've never beaten it.
You haven't cleared a run of FTL?
Dude, I rage quit because the thing is, I'm like, okay, I know what to expect. I'm like, I'm gonna get the Rebel ship this time. I'm gonna do it. And then I'm like, yes, I beat him. It's good. And then suddenly,
Phase
this
2.
isn't even my final form. And I'm like,
Nope.
oh crap, I'm not ready for it. I rage quit. I haven't played since then. I was so pissed.
Oh no!
Go back.
Oh.
It's worth it. It's worth it.
I
It's
have
so
never beaten it
fun.
on hard, but I have beaten it on easy and normal with every ship.
I've
but
beaten
not
it on hard with multiple ships. I am so
But, like,
proud of that.
I
was
wanted
so-
to do every
that's the
ship,
thing,
but I haven't
was so
done that.
happy. I was so proud of myself, and then the final form appears, and I'm like, son of a.
Well,
No!
it says something about the difficulty of that almost all the achievements in that game are reach the final stage. It's not beat the final ship.
Because so much bullcrap can happen before then.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's just in the fact that I'd have to start the whole game over and get back to it again. I'm like, oh my gosh.
I remember I destroyed the flagship right as my hull also went to zero. So my ship was literally falling apart, but they fell apart like 1 second earlier and they still won. I'm like, yes.
Oh man.
So I have a question.
Black Bear.
Because I can't remember. We've talked about it before, but have any of y'all played Octopath Traveler?
Yes.
The demo. I've been meaning to play the rest of it, but
Okay, there's this one boss. So each character has 4 chapters that you can go through, and the character Hanit, her final boss in chapter 4, his name is Red Eye. And this
You had a hard time with that?
he drove me nuts because what would happen is I'd be
Not a
doing
fan
great.
of
I would
certain
be doing
status effects.
yes, exactly the status effects. I would be doing so great, and then suddenly you get to once you get him down to like half HP, he moves from 2 attacks per turn to 3 attacks per turn. But there's this one ability that he starts doing towards the end that like stuns everyone, and then just starts attacking like crazy. It was just sort of I'm doing great, and just everyone's dead now. Like I was full health before
You were doing
his turn
great
came up.
until you weren't.
And it was just like
Soft enrage.
I see why FTL brought up this.
it just has this no, you don't get to play anymore. I'm just like, but I paid for the game. I own this game. I get to play it. You don't get to choose.
Now
game.
you will pay with your blood.
You belong to me, not the
Like,
other
why
way
do you have
around.
reaching drones? Gosh dang it.
So I think the reason
hated Red Eye.
I think the reason I didn't have as hard of a time with that is because I think Hanit was either the second to last or the last path that I did. And so I already had a full, like, basically murder team set up.
Oh,
And
so did I.
I basically
But
blasted it down from, like, I guess what I would assume is, like, half health to, like, basically not much left, but I don't remember details.
like it kept on getting down to the point where it's like I have 1 turn to kill left until you're dead, and I'm at full health and ready to damage, and he just says no, and it's just no.
I also can't remember if there's anything you can do to mitigate status effects in that game.
There are some items, and there are some like special abilities, but you really have to set up your party very specifically to make it work. And the way you set up your party to do that was not the way I had normally been playing with my, as you called it, full murder team.
Fair.
And so,
oh my goodness.
Status effects could be a whole topic.
status effects are insanity.
Man,
Let's talk about the Moorballs in the Final Fantasy series. Bad
No,
breath.
that's not a boss
Bad
though.
breath. Oh gosh, yes.
It's not a boss, but it could be.
well, it is.
I mean,
in the
technically, it
remake,
was in Crystal
FF7 remake.
Chronicles.
Status effects for thee, not for me, is all how I always
Oh
feel.
gosh, yes.
Well, yeah, it's like, oh, cool, all these status effects.
Oh, let me try silencing you. Oh, wait, you're immune?
It's like,
You're
no,
immune to
every boss is
every-
immune to every status effect.
That still leads to one of my favorite. It was going to be that one boss fight again from Final Fantasy X. Oh wow, that does look like a hamburger. Anyway, the boss fight. So I got Kamari and immediately thought this character sucks, and so I promptly never leveled him up, not
no.
once. And then suddenly, he ended up in a boss fight by himself versus other two Ronsos.
No.
Yep.
Oh,
and
no.
I'm over here like, oh no, what's
I
gonna
did the
happen?
Same
Well,
thing.
now
Oh, yeah, I can hear
the lucky thing though, I only had that do that boss fight one time. I beat it the first time because I didn't understand what a blue mage was at a time. All I know was that Kamari would get his limit break and then he would just copy someone else's move and then that's it. And I'm just like, well, that's lame. That's the dumbest thing I've ever seen. But he copied one move called Death Song, which puts like a 30 turn timer on, and once it reaches the timer, it goes to
That's
zero.
how you did it?
And so, but the thing is, I saw that, I'm like, that's amazing. I then try to do it to any boss, and it's like, nah, it doesn't work on that. And it's a son of a gun. I tried it on them, and it worked. And so I'm like, okay, I just have to looks at the clock, 30 turns.
See? Oh my gosh, that's so long.
And so I just sat there doing nothing but healing and defensive moves. And finally it ticks down. They both die. It probably looks like to everyone watching, like they just had a heart attack out of nowhere. Did he have the death note? And it's like, kinda.
Well, yeah, literally.
Yeah, but it
You said that song, Death Note.
Yeah. And so, yeah, I know it would have been if not for that, if not for copying one random schmo's, Uber move that turned out to be the one time it gets to work.
It's interesting. That actually reminds me of a boss. I did have the tab pulled up to discuss this boss, but the one where, we force you to use a specific character as the only character in your party to fight this boss. And if it's a party member that you've neglected,
You're out of luck.
you.
Yes.
And for me, yes, Kamari, I did the same thing because I didn't care for Kamari. Sometimes blue mages could be cool. I did not think Kamari was one of them, but I was able to handle that okay. The one that scared me and I thought was going to make me unable to beat the game and is something I would prepare for in the future is there's a boss, Terubo, from Breath of Fire 2. In fact, there's like an entire dungeon where you have to play as Stin, the monkey on your team.
How's this spelled?
The boss name or
Yeah, the boss name.
Torubo.
B-O, okay.
Yeah. In Breath of Fire 2. And the thing is you go back to the castle that where the monkey tribe lives, and you have to play as your character that's the monkey on your team. And I didn't care for him, and I never used him, and he was severely underleveled. And so this entire dungeon and fighting this boss in High Fort, if you want, maybe it's if you want to find like a video, it might be easier to look up.
I already did.
High Fort. It was just so grueling and hard, and I think I died so many times just because I'm like, oh crap, I'm playing as my weakest character, my weakest, most underleveled character.
Why did the monkey's arms look like they're noodles? That's a design choice.
Well, they're like supposed to be like the martial artists.
Well, yeah, but
like,
instead they look like they're characters from
barrel
Arms.
Monkeys. I think a barrel of monkeys is what I think.
But like, part of the reason why I never used Sten was because like everyone has a unique ability, right? and Sten's is to just play dead for a round to not get aggroed. It's like the lamest, most pointless ability.
My special ability, laziness.
Yeah, seriously.
It's
So I
like
never
Edward and
used them.
FF4's hide.
Yeah, it's like FF4. Yeah, exactly. It's like, but even Edward I thought was a better character than Sten in my opinion. But
We'll have to agree
man,
on that one.
this boss was just brutal for me because I was just so underleveled. Like this,
And
this
it's
whole
the thing,
dungeon-
it says, you don't enjoy this character? Tough. We're gonna
And
make you play this character.
I don't think there was anywhere else in the entire game that forced you to play as a single character. But even if there was, it wouldn't have been an issue.
Well, it's one thing to like force a party, because that'll happen in a lot of RPGs.
Oh yeah.
Where
Yeah.
they split the party and suddenly you're like, oh, I'm playing with this cast of 3 characters that I wouldn't normally use. Okay, how do I win? This is an interesting puzzle. But when you go down to just one, it's like, but what if I don't like them?
And it's even worse when they force you into one character directly into a boss fight with no lead up or warning. So that way it's like, yeah, no, if you didn't happen to use them at all beforehand or level them up or whatever, tough luck. Just had to read our minds.
Especially
Oh,
if they
yeah.
haven't done any one-on-one fights at all otherwise.
Oh yeah.
I don't know why. I'm thinking of something a little different, but I'm thinking of the mandatory side games that you have to play, like in Final Fantasy IX. You have to play the dang card game. I hated that so bad.
I
Tetra Master is such a
enjoyed the card
poorly
game.
designed card game. I'll take Triple Triad over it any day.
I do think FF8's implement. I can't remember which one I thought was better.
Eight was completely optional. That's what I liked. 9, you had to play it at one point in the game, and I just like, oh.
Mm. So
Triple Triad was 8, wasn't it?
Yeah,
Yeah, I can't. What was the one in 9 called? I forget.
Tetra Master.
Yeah. Oh my
Where it's
gosh.
like, what if we expanded the grid and made everything far more random, and even when you play it right, you can still lose because there's hidden dice rolls in the background.
And let's have a mandatory sequence where you must win the tournament in order to progress the story.
For no reason, even though you're
This
just there
part
to
of the
participate
RPG
from-
will be played by a
do a thing.
Yu-Gi-Oh episode.
yeah.
No,
Yeah,
no joke.
I hated that part of the game so
And-
much.
And in FF8, you could actually make like core party progress by playing Triple Triad, because you can get certain things. You can convert cards into spells, or however the
Yeah,
junction
the
system
junction
works.
system, yes.
Tetramaster, the only thing you get for doing Tetramaster is getting more cards for Tetramaster. There is no crossover with the rest of the game, so why have a required section in it?
Because you see, if they didn't require it, you might not play it, and they put a lot of work into it. So they're going to try and make you do it.
I swear they saw me not play it in Final Fantasy VIII, and you're like, you know what? We're going to get that guy Gordon to play our gosh dang card game.
I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if that was kind of the motivation. I mean, we know that this happens sometimes in sequels. You go to things like Smash Brothers Brawl. Tripping was because they were watching how pros were playing in Melee, and they're like, well, we don't like that, so we're going to punish that style of gameplay. This is just the version of, well, wait, but we like this. Why aren't you playing it? Let's make them play it so that they understand how cool it is.
Well, but the thing is in 8 you were so richly rewarded for doing it. Like I don't think I could have beaten the optional super boss of 8 without doing the card game to get the
Which
invincibility
optional?
item.
So
Super
wait,
boss.
so to do the
Sorry, Ruben.
optional super boss, you need to do the optional side game?
Well, what it was is in 8 you'd gain, like, by playing the game you'd win cards from other people, but there was an ability you had to turn cards into items, and the rarest cards, which, I mean, you'd have to give up the card, but they're like, you could get mega elixirs, but there's another one that would make your party invincible for like 10 turns, and I had to use that to beat the final super boss.
Which one was that? I can't remember the boss.
The Omega weapon.
Mega weapon.
I mean,
Huh.
in
I
Final Fantasy game, there's a 50% chance the optional boss was called Omega weapon. So
yeah,
I
I
think it.
guess I feel like I maybe did that without needing that item, but I can't remember now. It's been a while.
I don't know. Then again, the whole ending of 8 and some people said they could still visit towns when they got to the end, and I couldn't. So
Oh,
I don't
yeah.
know. I don't know. The whole ending of 8 was, I don't know. 8 was 8's just a
There's
weird one in
it's a weird
general.
game. There's timey wiminess to it. It does have for me there is that one boss battle for me that like just stymied me for the longest time, and that was the dang Diabolus optional boss. You remember that one?
Diablos?
Yeah,
In
yeah.
what?
In Final Fantasy VIII. So you get like really early in the game, you get this item. I think it's like a magic lamp or something. And when you activate it, it sends you into the boss battle to fight Diablos. And you can fight him like at like level like 8 or something like that. And and if you defeat him, you get him as another Guardian Force, which is great. Yay, more Guardian Forces.
Yeah.
But the thing is, he has a spell that does. It's a little like your Deus boss guy. He like takes out a percentage of your health essentially with it, and then he's fast. He just does quick melee attacks, and like so you're down to like a quarter health, and suddenly whack. You're gone. Whack, you're gone. And then he heals himself too. Like any boss that heals himself, like it's like shouldn't be allowed. But but I mean, like it turns out that there's some weird AI shenanigans I found out by going to GameFAQs.com that if you cast heal on him, he'll cast heal on you. And so
Interesting.
that was kind of a way to kind of just like cheese it, and then you get him, and then he becomes a pretty mediocre summon after all of that work to beat him, which is all the more insulting as an optional
Awesome
boss.
summons for me, but not for thee.
Not for thee.
Yeah.
It's like wow, here I am. I'll wipe your party left and right, and now you'll use me, and I'm like okay, I'll have a
I believe the
1
trope
minute
is called
summon
villain
sequence.
decay.
You'll have a 1 minute summon sequence in which you can do approximately 8,000 hit points of damage, and that's it.
Well, okay, yeah, actually, Breath of Fire 3 had one of the most egregious of those villain decays. It's like, oh, here's this super hard boss that as soon as you beat him, he joins your party, but once he's on your party, he's,
He's awful.
he wasn't like, I still
No,
used him
he
in
was
my party.
he was who you fought.
He was not who I fought. No. But yeah, it's just like you're just why was it hard for four of us, three of us to take you on when you're just as strong as one of us? It's like you dropped your power by a third.
Well, that's what heroism does.
Yeah, Baggins. While you were describing Octopath Traveler, it actually gave me a flashback to a game that I think was actually inspiration for Octopath Traveler, Saga Frontier.
Okay.
Because that was like the first time Squaresoft attempted making a game with multiple, like you choose the starting character and there's multiple campaign stories depending on for each character. And there was one boss in there. Part of the reason why I haven't fully beaten the game is a boss named Mondo. One of the paths, which, I mean, it kind of makes sense. Like all the other characters kind of have like a purpose that's driving them, and then there's Lute, who's the bard he just wants to explore and have fun. And with him, his storyline, you can just go straight to the final boss. And so his campaign is mostly just doing the side quests, which if you've done others, you kind of know what side quests are available. But like like he's got one of the strongest, hardest bosses, and yet there's no storyline to like level your character up to take it, and it's it was hard to get, to beat that boss.
Now, did that come out before Seiken Densetsu 3?
Well, no, it didn't. But did Seiken Densetsu 3 it had multiple characters to choose from, but did it have like distinctly separate storylines?
Yes, absolutely.
Oh, I thought you still went through like the same dungeons and places. Okay, wait.
There may have been a lot of similar dungeons and stuff, but like the storyline definitely shifted.
So like in Seiken Densetsu 3, if you chose it, is it like the first person you choose, or is it like the combination?
It's the first person you choose,
and it's a completely different path every time. If you,
that's how it's been forever since I played, but that's how I remember it being. And maybe I'm wrong.
I thought it was just the intro that was different, and then it merged. I couldn't.
No, because you have a different main villain throughout the whole thing, if I remember right.
Oh. Okay. Well, maybe I misunderstood Seiken Densetsu 3. Not that I've ever finished that, because the Switch version's emulation is that one boss for me when it comes to Seiken Densetsu 3. Did I ever tell you that story?
No, just whenever you hear it's this version is the problem, you're just like, uh-oh, what did they do?
They just used their save file system. Basically, it's like an emulator with save states. But when you're playing an official game from Nintendo, you don't expect it to be save states like it is an emulator. And so I got to a certain point of the game, and I wanted to check something out, and so I loaded a save file, not realizing I was loading a save state that was erasing the save file, like the in-game Super Nintendo saving. You know what I mean? Because, the save file is part of the save state.
Version overwrite. Yeah, that sort of... Okay, I pick up what you're putting down.
And so... In Seiken Densetsu 3, I loaded a save state, not realizing that wiped the save file within the game.
Yeah.
I mean, it's something I expect and am conscious of when I'm playing on an emulator, but when I was playing from an official, Switch cartridge, I did not connect that would happen, so I wiped my save file by loading a save state.
That's a different problem.
Yeah. So,
no.
I've done that before.
I've stopped playing games because of save state issues.
Yeah. Okay, so this is one... Now, man, I hope I'm remembering this right. I think Lizzie was the one who warned me about this. Okumura in Persona 5.
That wouldn't have been me. I haven't
It wasn't
played those.
Okay, I thought. Dang it, trying to remember who it was then. But I just remember because it's interesting.
Okumura is a common one for 5.
It's interesting because I was getting really frustrated with him.
I don't think I warned you either.
Yeah, I can't. For some reason, I thought it was Lizzie, but no, because his boss fight suddenly requires you to basically kind of have a DPS check where you have to defeat mobs that all have different weaknesses. All like 4 of them all in one go. And I was just beating my head against it. And finally, so I was getting kind of frustrated. And finally I said, okay, you know what? I'm actually not using the counter system strategically the way that I think this game is wanting me to do. And it was really a check on, are you understanding this mechanic? We're going to put a boss fight in your way that makes sure that you get how this mechanic works, because you are not passing until you understand.
The one more system?
Yeah, the one more system, because I kept using my sweepers to do a bunch of AoE damage and knock them all down, but you have to, the one more system, it gets stronger with each time you successfully do it. And it's like, no, I need to set this up such that when I'm using my big AoE, it's as big as possible, because you're not going to get the kills otherwise. And I just wasn't doing it properly. And so it was just one of those things where it was definitely that one boss. Like, I understand why it is, but at the same time, I kind of, at the end of it, strangely appreciated that they kind of said, no, we're going to make sure you get this mechanic, because this is important.
Well, I'm trying to. I mean, wasn't the point just to do all-out attacks in that fight, or
No, because the issue is you have to, in order for the all-out attacks to work, you
could
need
you not
them.
knock down Okumura? Or
You usually have to have everyone. Yeah.
Yeah, you have to have
everyone down.
You have to have all 4 of them knocked down, and at low enough percentage where they're actually going to die. Because the problem is,
you need to eliminate them altogether.
yeah, you have to eliminate them all at the same time. Because otherwise,
since I played the game, so.
and so they,
those are rough.
yeah, and so it was one of those things where it was definitely a combat puzzle. And I think I spent a good 2 hours on the fight, but again, it was weird because at the end of it, I was strangely appreciative of the design choice of it.
That's the thing. Last time I played it was on a New Game Plus, so I was obviously overpowered. So
walking over it, yeah.
So it's like I did this fight recently. I just don't remember the challenge because last time I did it was on a New Game Plus.
One-shotting everything.
Yeah,
now, Lizzie, I thought you had played it, or was it the other Persona games?
I haven't played any Persona. I've
You
watched
haven't?
Lunsar play, but I've never
that's
played.
right. You see, it's the whole marriage merging of things that I'm losing things on.
Yes.
The other Persona games gotta have them, though.
Sport.
A lot of people call out the pixel boss from P4. You know the one I'm talking about? Yeah.
Matsuo, yeah, the hero.
He was hard. I don't know. I didn't think he was like the worst personally, but
I don't know. I just love that whole dungeon and the boss fight, and I just love the aesthetic and the 8-bit Dragon Quest feel they were going.
Yeah,
for.
the look was
great.
fun. The look was fun for sure.
It was great, though. I will admit,
Style can help.
That boss though, when you break apart the voxelated hero and inside's a crying baby, that part was mind bending. Just kind of like,
Welcome to
the
Persona.
game's telling you, hey, you gamer, make sure you're still touching grass to not turn into this loser. It's like, wow, you're kind of almost insulting your player base, telling them to make sure you still grow up.
Yeah, but Persona is sort of like you're paying for that privilege. It's like going to a modern. That's like going to a haunted house.
Well, I mean, to be fair, what is Persona 4? It's Jungian therapy, the game. So, yeah, you kind of know what you're getting into with that one. So,
Face your true self.
But hey, I like Jungian. The Jungian's good stuff. So it's
Jungian
psychology. I think is the word you're looking for.
Thank you, psychology. I hate all psychology unless it's Jungian, so it's all good.
Resident Psych Major here. I think Jungian is interesting for like tropes and whatnot. I don't think it's actually good, but that's a discussion for another time.
All right.
So Lizzie, I had you completely pegged on the wrong game series. What game series have you been playing then? That you have that one boss from?
I think I've said most of the ones. I've been sitting here trying to think of another one, and I'm blanking.
Are there any future that one bosses in future Pokemon games? Because if it's past Gen 2, I don't know.
Not that I can think of, but I am the type that I just super over level my starter so I can just plow through things. I know people do complain about Cynthia though in Diamond and Pearl. She can be tough, even though they do they like her character. She just can be tough because she's the champion at the end of the Elite Four.
Okay.
I was just playing my Brilliant Diamond Shining Pearl, and I was fighting the Elite Four again because I needed more money for shiny hunting reasons. And I actually lost to Cynthia, even though I have my team of level 100 Pokemon, but they just kept hitting so hard, and I had to keep reviving my same Pokemon over and over. So she is a tough one if you're not properly prepared for her.
I have not heard that one.
Yeah, it's funny when you mentioned Silver and Gold earlier, and I think their harder bosses are when you're able to go back to Kanto and refight all the Kanto gym leaders and fight Red. I thought those were hard because it's I need to level up my Pokemon, but the wild Pokemon aren't high enough level to level you up. So I actually
That's the Gen 2 level curve issue.
Yeah, so it's like I actually feel like the after game in Kanto is just super hard because it's like it takes too long to level up to deal with the Kanto gems and champion.
There's another type of boss I want to talk about, and it's one that's near and dear to my heart. The Chosen from XCOM 2. And usually what's interesting is because I pay attention to the subreddit, and the subreddit is all over the place on what they feel the weakest of the 3 Chosen are. But I
think it always comes down to personal, but sure.
Yeah, it's personal. But the other thing is what their weaknesses are, because for those who've never played it, they all have strengths and they all have weaknesses, and it's just a random roll of the dice of which ones it'll be. And sometimes it'll get a combination that is just evil. Like you'll get the assassin who reveals your stealth units. And she's also a stealth unit. So she's just going to go around revealing your stealth units and you don't know where she is. Or they get immune to explosions, and so you can't destroy their armor any traditional way.
Immune to explosions is annoying.
Or they gain armor if you miss shots is another one I hate.
Oh yeah, that one also sucks.
And sometimes it's like, no, I'm normally curb stomp these guys because, by the time you're facing them, you're kind of prepared for them. But sometimes they'll just snowball and destroy you. And you're just like, you're normally easier for me to beat. What happened?
That's when you're just hoping for that repeater kill.
Yep.
The worst one for me is always Warlock, because Warlock somehow always gets, for me, like the summon psionic enemies as well. And so it's like, okay, Warlock, every other turn he'll summon 2 to 3 Advent Priests, which always activate the instant stasis. And so then you're just constantly behind on action economy and can't deal with all the ads. Meanwhile, all the other mission objective stuff is going on.
Yeah, it's and the thing in true XCOM style, it is just roll of the dice though with what their traits are. And sometimes you have the nuts and sometimes the nuts have you. That's XCOM, baby.
Well, there's one boss that keeps coming to my mind that Mithril. It's from FF14, and so you're probably familiar with it, although you may not have fought it in a long time. And that's the account registration boss.
You see, that's actually not an issue for me, but that's also because
I've fought it 3 times, and I have 2 accounts.
So I lucked out with that because I was given free trial, like the old free trial version before they went to the new free trial, whatever.
Right.
Through Twitch Prime. And then later I just purchased Shadowbringers when it was on sale, plus all the other expansions for like $10 at the start of pandemic. And just applied it to my account, and so because I had already had everything basically set up for me through Twitch Prime, it just kind of worked for me, but I understand that for the vast majority of people that is not the case.
It just is a very poor setup because it's just like, let's make it as difficult as possible for our potential audience to give us money.
I don't get it. Like literally, that is the part of the experience with like WoW that is butter smooth. Everyone complains about it. It's like, oh, this is broken, but we can still do our microtransactions. And it's like, yeah, but I at least understand the incentive for it. I feel like I'm on a freaking like talent show with Square Enix being like, are you good enough to play our game? Let's see if we give you the honor of giving us money.
Why am I thinking of that Penny Arcade comic about the Sony store?
Because it kind of is, where you're just like, what is wrong with you people?
Put money in a bag.
Yeah, it really is. It's like, all right, put the money in the bag. All right, your money's in there. Thank you. All right, do you want the game? Yeah, I'd like to buy the game. All right, you're buying the game now. All right, the game's yours.
I will say, anytime you have to like adjust your like credit card details or whatnot, it is insane how how many times do I have to visit a web page? How many web pages do I have to visit before I can figure this thing out?
The number
I
of
think
web
it's all-
pages I had to go through to find out I couldn't sign up for a new account on the same Steam profile was stupid. I felt like I was going through websites that were built in 1998.
Mm-hmm.
Well, let's not forget the times you have to please put in your password and you're on a controller. It's like, oh.
Nintendo Switch Online.
Yep.
Yeah,
that's
Beep. Beep.
Yeah, I feel like the Lodestone website and whatnot hasn't been updated since Final Fantasy 11.
Yeah, that sounds about
So-
right.
Yeah.
And knowing Square Enix, they're probably like, well, we don't want to abandon our Final Fantasy 11 people. And it's like, what, all 9 of them? I don't get it.
They're all
They
personal
still
friends.
apparently get content every once in a
Yeah.
while.
I don't understand that. It is such a bad game. Although MMOs is interesting as a that one boss thing, because none of us have really brought them up, because the way MMO bosses are set up, especially like raid bosses, they're sort
All
of
technically optional.
yeah, they're all well, and on top of it, they're sort of designed to be like, this is supposed to be really difficult, and you're supposed to sort of bang your head against it.
Yeah. Well, so actually, that brings up an interesting one. Have any of you played Guild Wars?
I dabbled in it, but yeah,
So
not-
one of the
not
raid
really.
bosses in that game is Urgo's Warren. And what I didn't know, so to beat that raid, it actually requires having a necromancer in your party that has a specific skill that allows you to teleport to a corpse, because there's literally a place that you cannot get to in the map without using that skill to teleport to finish this raid. And what I didn't know is when I started playing with Dane and Cool One Thing and whatnot, and I was asking him, I'm like, oh, I think I'd like to play as this class. And they're all like, no, you should go Necromancer. I think you'll like Necromancer. And I'm like, you think so? I'm like, yeah, trust me, go Necromancer.
Class
They needed
manipulation.
you.
And so it wasn't for months that I'm finally like, beating the storyline, gotten towards the end, that they're like, hey, now that you're, finally max level, it's like, you want to come on a raid with us? And I'm like, oh yeah, sure. And like, make sure you equip this skill. I'm like, wait a minute. Wait, why? And then they explain it. I'm like, is this the reason why you told me to not be a mage and to be a necromancer?
100%.
Like, gosh dang it, you guys.
Yeah, stuff like that is like, okay, I find it at least theoretically interesting in single player RPGs, but when it's like MMOs, it's like, this feels like
Yeah.
toxic design.
Well,
And
and it's
so-
why
Let's induce someone to spend
Yeah.
70 hours.
well, it's interesting because you can see the best MMO for seeing stuff like this is World of Warcraft, because it's lasted so long, and you can see that in the early versions of the game where it's like, no, we just assume you have a priest with improved mind control, otherwise you can't beat this fight. And
But
now
anyways-
it's designed to be a little more class agnostic.
So finally I did that raid with them, the whole reason that they manipulated me to the class I was. And yeah, we got wrecked. So we didn't even beat it either, but jeez. Urgo's Warren. Goodness.
But it's a great memory. Or,
Yeah.
at the very minimum, it's a fun one to bring up as stories.
Yeah. To be fair, being able to raise an army of meat shields actually was kind of fun, so it was okay.
But all right, we've been going at this a while. Is there any more bosses anyone wants to
Oh.
bring up before we wind down?
I actually do have a
I
couple.
I have
as
one.
well.
One.
All right,
One's a... I'll start
Looney,
with
go first.
I'll start with just a class of bosses. It's the one where they seem really hard, but they seem beatable, but then you find out that they're actually not meant to be beaten, even though sometimes they make them so you can technically beat them.
The
Forced loss
stupid loss.
conditions.
Yeah, the forced losses, but sometimes you actually technically can. And if they don't kill you fast enough, you end up wasting resources staying alive. That if you just you just take the fall and not like waste your elixirs and whatnot. So those are kind of annoying if you don't know you're supposed to lose.
That was me versus the first version of the Chalice or whatever it is in Persona 5.
I mean, I feel like there's a few of them. The one that comes to mind for me is Balio and Sunder in Breath of Fire 3, which the first time you fight them, they're invincible. You have to lose. The second time you fight them, they're not invincible. You can lose or you can win. And then the third time you gotta beat them. But it's just, yeah.
I hate that style of boss so much, and thankfully it doesn't have consumable resources in that same way. But Xenoblade Chronicles 2 does that like 12 times, and it's so frustrating.
All I know is I don't remember them doing it that much in in Xenoblade 2, but
Anytime you fight Jin, aside from the very last time.
oh yeah. I feel like when they do that, I just feel like they need to make it so overwhelmingly powerful that like you don't end up wasting resources.
Yeah, well, because I against the again I can't remember what it's called, but the Chalice thing, I ended up wasting some of my like party like full MP revives and stuff.
Oh, mega elixirs.
Oof.
And it was just one of those days that's like, guys, we can't beat this thing here. Oh, and then we have to run away. And I'm just like, really?
It's like, but I just spent the equivalent of my entire life savings.
Could we not have told us that this was a real low stakes thing? No information. No, I want to walk in and just have them just slap me to the ground. It's like, okay, well, clearly I'm not supposed to win here.
It like, yeah, if they can go first, or like I don't want a second turn, or like if I do make it to the second turn, I want to be like so beat down that I'm like, okay, I think I'm supposed to lose. I'm not even gonna waste, like I want it to be obvious. Yeah. But when it's not obvious, man, well, I mean, sometimes they're like, technically you
scripted
can
dialogue
win.
helps,
The worst is I had one where I actually was winning, and then they're just like, "Oh, we can't win. We got to run away." And it's just like, "Oh,
Like, wait a minute, what?
why?"
No, I'm going toe to toe with gods right now.
Oh,
Come
no,
on.
I'm good,
yeah,
I'm
no.
good. Like, let's bring it.
That's also frustrating.
I mean, to be fair, that there are implementations like in Chrono Trigger where in a New Game Plus, you can beat the game by beating it right then and there. And I thought that was
Secret
really cool.
developer ending.
That was cool though. But still,
Chrono
the
Trigger
first time
used-
you fight
Chrono
it,
Trigger
you just
used,
you get wasted the first time, and
It's like, what's inside this bucket? Uh-oh.
Yeah, I feel like Chrono Trigger's New Game Plus is the absolute peak implementation of a New Game Plus system.
Oh yeah, and it was one of the first, and it's still one of the best.
It's the first I ever heard of.
First to specifically call it New Game Plus, if I remember right. I don't remember if it's the first of all time.
No. Like the same month, Lufia 2 came out first, and it had that New Game Plus, but it just started you over. It just had an increased XP and gold drop rate when you played it. But they did call it New Game Plus. So, but the first time, but Chrono Trigger's standard that came out that same month set the standard of, no, it's when you start over and have
Definitely raises the bar there.
Yeah. But the last boss I want to talk about is one that I know is near and dear to Splice's heart, Boost Guardian from Metroid Prime 2 Echoes.
Yeah. Yep. That was the
my
one
gosh.
I was going to be saving, but yeah,
Oh my gosh.
I need a
if you want to
refresher. I
save
do
that
not
for the
remember.
end,
No,
if you wanna
it's
save
fine.
that-
It's fine. It's no, for those
All
who
I know is
didn't, Metroid Prime 2 is
Oof.
I really like it, but it has this dark aether mechanic where whenever you stand in it, you lose health, which that's fine because the entire gameplay is based around basically you moving from safe place to safe place and sort of you're fighting, feeling desperate, fighting in the bulwark. And in classic Metroid fashion, as the time goes on, you can spend more time in the dark aether until it no longer hurts you at all. Well, you're still in the part of the game where it hurts you. So what if they put an entire boss fight inside that thing, so it has an artificial timer just built in, and
With
every time you
with no pockets of safety.
yeah, and so every single time you take damage, it's moving the timer down every single time. And what if the boss moves erratically because it goes into a ball form that just speeds up and bounces seemingly at unpredictable angles?
Well, I mean, it's like you're playing a first-person shooter and you have to dodge a pinball. It's
Any of the morph ball required boss fights in Metroid Prime typically were lacking in something, with the exception of Quadraxis in Metroid Prime 3, which made you like use all your tools, and it was awesomely done. But usually if they forced you into the morph ball for a boss fight, it just wasn't quite as good.
And one of the other minor frustrating things, I think it was Boost Guardian, but it could have been another one. You had like one chance before its boss arena to actually scan it if you wanted 100% scan completion. And if you missed it, that's
all the bosses basically. But
scanning the bosses, I forgot about. Oh, gosh.
I got 99.9%. It wasn't Boost Guardian, but it was a random ad that was summoned by a boss that looks exactly like another ad that I'd already scanned, but it's different.
But no,
so frustrating.
But no, the Boost Guardian, because like it was just completely random how it would bounce around and it would hit you and it deal so much damage. And what made it even worse is, normally in the boss fight they have some way for you to recover health. This boss fight does have a way for you to recover health. There are it's a circular room, and I want to say there's 3 pillars, right? And
4.
If the Boost Guardian hits a pillar, it'll drop a health. But
a big one.
A big health, yeah. But here's the problem. Well, I mean, obviously not.
No, it's 100 health. Like it's a huge amount of health back.
Yeah, sorry. All right.
Yeah, but the problem is you are relying on the randomness of Boost Guardian to hit this pillar to make it drop the health, and you're completely at his mercy. So you have no
and you're hoping he doesn't break 2 in the same go when you don't need it.
Yeah, and so there are times where it's I went in and I had to fight Boost Guardian. I have no idea how many times it took me, because it's there was no pattern to learn. There was nothing skill. To me, that is not a skill-based boss. It's just, did I get pummeled with his random bouncing or not?
Now, it clearly is skill-based, because you see speedrunners and they just plow through it like it's nothing.
Sure, but I remember one time
it doesn't feel like it when you're first playing.
But the first time, not the first time, one of the times I went in and I'd been trying to fight him a lot, and so I knew what the battle was like, but I rely on, hoping to heal partway. The battle starts, he does his first, pinball bouncing around, and he hit all 3 pillars while I was still at full health. And the health does not last forever. It disappears after 10 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
And so I'm just oh, great. All the health drops happen now. They do nothing for me, and there's no health down the road. It's just I'll try and win, but
meanwhile the Boost Guardian's over here.
Bad.
Nothing personal, kid.
And I'm just gosh dang it. And so it's when I finally killed the Boost Guardian, I just felt lucky. He hit the pillars when I needed health, and only one at a time, and I just was able to survive long enough to kill him. It's just, gosh dang it, the Boost Guardian.
The thing is, after you kill him, you're still not out of the woods, because you're still in the darkness. And so if you're at super low health and you can't get out of the room quick enough, you could still die and have to fight him all over again.
Oh gosh, luckily that didn't happen to me, but jeez.
But yeah, in an otherwise very enjoyable game, yeah, the Boost Guardian is a problem.
Okay, I guess there's 4 pillars looking at what you.
Yeah, there's 4. But
yeah, I'm remembering now.
Yeah. All right. Who else said they had one?
I did.
All right.
I do as well. Go for it.
So mine is not really technically a boss, and it's just an encounter. And this is from Dragon Age Origins, so one of the few CRPG examples we'll have today. So this this encounter happens approximately I want to say like a third through the game. So you've already played a fair amount. The Dragon Age Origins is like a 80-hour game. So you're already in for a while, and you've been getting by using whatever tactics or method or whatever. I was kind of hacking and slashing essentially. I was like, I have all these other skills, but like I don't really need to like coordinate them and get the synergies and all that. Like, and then you're storming this castle, and you enter this like basically like a pantry of a kitchen, and inside are six murderous dogs. They're called Mabari, and for whatever reason, like the developers were content to say, like, you know what, get by doing whatever, but at this point, we're going to teach you that you actually do need the tactics and the strategy that we've been trying to tell you exists in this game, but you've been ignoring up to this point, because they will swarm you and kill you immediately if you don't have a plan with these things.
But why are there murder dogs in their pantry?
Well, the murder dogs, you're assaulting a castle and they're defending their.
And they
turf,
kept them
I
in the
guess.
pantry.
It may not actually be a pantry. This is what I remember, but it was
Well,
a
I'm going to
closed
assume
space.
you're correct.
It was a closed space in any case, so it wasn't like you could run and kite. I was a mage, so that was like my main strategy. I would kite everything. And it's like, oh, I'll slow you, run, and then just shoot my little like blasts and whatever, and I'll take care of you. And now suddenly I'm like, oh gosh, I actually have to do crowd control as a magic user. Like, how does that work? And I had to figure it out, because you literally cannot pass it until you actually use strategy and use liberal use of the pause button, because the game is intended to be able to be played as a turn-based game, but you can play most of it real time if you want, kind of like the other BioWare type games like KOTOR and such, where there are actually rounds of combat and you can pause between and do different strategies, have your different party members do different things. But yeah, the Mabari fight at Red Cliff Castle is just that one point where it's like, if you haven't been using tactics and strategy, now's a good time to really think about doing that. And it sets you up for actually fighting far more difficult enemies later on. But at that point, it is really what teaches you. Yeah, you want to be doing the things that we're trying to teach you, but you've been ignoring up to this point.
Mechanics. They're
Honestly,
real.
I feel like every encounter in that game was that way. I didn't even think I got that far, because I just remember like one of the earlier encounters. It's like,
if you've been playing a higher difficulty maybe or something, yeah.
I just
Dragon Age is
get
hard.
Swarmed, my entire party gets wiped. I'm like, I don't even know what just happened, and I don't know. It wasn't just that. There were some other reasons where I'm like, I'm not going to play this game.
All right. Mithril, what was your last example?
So I'm changing based on what I put in from Discord, because initially I was like, okay, a Final Fantasy III, Cerberus, and then Cloud of Darkness, but that can be summed up as, what if we made a boss that took 3 actions per turn in a game with no static initiative order, and so they could just go last and then first and then get 6 actions and wipe your whole party. Sounds fun. But what I really wanted to talk about now that I'm looking through my games is, has anyone ever played Baldur's Gate 1?
Nope.
Not the OG.
Sounds like a no. Okay.
I've been planning to.
I was gonna say, no spoilers, but the final boss is absolutely stupidly insane. I'm trying to even think of how to describe this. So, Baldur's Gate 1 is it's a CRPG based off of D&D 2nd edition, with some changes and some additional stuff.
Complete with tacos, as I call it. Thaco.
Yeah, you have Thaco and whatnot in there. The way it displays and whatnot. So, early game, it's pretty darn tough. You die in 1 or 2 hits because you're a level 1 character. eventually you'll get some magic armor, magic weapons, better spells, whatnot, and you're able to pretty effectively deal with a lot of situations. It's still second edition D&D, so high danger level. You can kill stuff fast, but they can kill you fast. But it's all around, like, eventually you'll get to a point you're getting +2 and +3 magical items. I think you cap out around level 9 or so, character level, if you're not multi-classing. You can have a party of up to 6. So you can swing the odds in your favor. And then you get to the very final boss, the person who you've been basically tracking down and trying to hunt down for, like, the whole of the game. And I don't know exactly what they have, but it's like perfect armor class, 90% magic resistance, and just a ton of hit points. And they are in a room with multiple other very strong, high-level enemies that are either some of them are magic immune warriors, some of them are like really powerful mages that'll just like blow you up. And so there are a couple ways to beat this boss in theory. First of all, you're going to be save loading a lot. It's no question. You are just going to be save loading, save loading, save loading. And then, oh wait, the other thing is that the entire arena is trapped with so many tiles that if you go over it, it triggers a trap, like throwing a lightning bolt out, and lightning bolts in second edition can bounce off walls. So, hey, you trigger the wrong lightning bolt, it shoots, and it can randomly bounce off the walls and hit your entire party multiple times. Fun boss. So what you can either do is set up something where it's like you set up a million traps and skull traps and everything and just lure him in. Or what I did, which is, okay, the rest of my party's gonna die, everything goes onto my main character, which if you lose your main character, you lose the game, doesn't matter if anyone else is alive. Put everything on my main character, give them a scroll of magic immunity, which lasts for a couple turns or something. It's like globe of minor invulnerability, I think it is. So it's not pure magic immunity, but it's like all spells of level 3 or lower don't affect you, which includes lightning bolt. And so what I did was, okay, the rest of my party does their thing to try and kill as many of these other ads as possible. And then I just have to keep running around in circles over that lightning trap, which does like 2 damage per hit to the final boss. But he's chasing me, but I also have the boots of cheetah speed so I can run at twice regular speed. So I'm running around in circles, triggering this lightning bolt trap that doesn't hurt me, but hurts him like 2 damage at a time. And I just have to do that for like solid 5 to 10 minutes. And that was the only way that I could figure out how to beat him. And this is like, okay, by this point in time...
Nickel and dimed him.
Oh, truly scam cheated him. It's like, I don't know how people, quote, legitimately kill this boss. But then again, it's second edition D&D. Is any kill, quote, legitimate? Like, I'm able to run up and, like, bash down other groups of enemies right before this. All the other required enemies you have to face. Fair fight, arrows, swords... some magic, not a problem. This guy, there is no way that you're not cheesing him out, at least on your first playthrough.
Well, from what I understand of friends of mine that have played Baldur's Gate 1 and 2, is I feel like that entire game is about building min-max cheese character builds.
Kind of.
Especially the second one where it's like, oh, I got this character, I got him down to where he has like times, like an extra plus 20d6 backstab damage, and I could blah, blah, like, I mean, honestly, Baldur's Gate 2 was a game that I decided not to play for at least 2 decades because a guy talked my ear off about it so much,
Fair enough. I'm
gonna wait a while before
the real one boss, the real life boss,
the friend that won't shut up.
Yep.
Indeed.
All right. Well, we've almost been going for 2 hours, so I love this. This is a good topic. We should do more like this in the future. Anyway, everyone has other projects. Let's go just from the back of the list. Mithril, do you have anything you'd like to promote?
Sure. YouTube.com/MithrilZenith. I do mostly Fire Emblem content, some design analysis, and occasionally talking about just other things that catch my interest and aren't necessarily videos that are as well not as popular, but is what it is.
I think they're good. All right, Patripka, do you want to promote anything?
Nope, just happy to be here.
Excellent. Lunasar.
How about the Godot game engine? Been playing
Okay.
around with that.
Oh, really? Okay, interesting.
Open source fun stuff.
We're waiting for that engine.
Get that name. That'd be a good name for you for future projects. Open source fun stuff.
Open source fun stuff.
Lizzie, would you like to promote anything?
I will promote my stream, twitch.tv/Lizzie Petrichor. I do Pokemon shiny hunting, and it's fun.
I do like that you got 3 in one day to try and make up for the Pidove incident.
It really depends on which game I'm playing, because Sword and Shield shinies take so much longer than Scarlet and Violet shinies. Although I'll admit, I've been shiny hunting this whole podcast and haven't gotten anything. So Scarlet's not being nice to me right now.
If you do, remember, you are contractually obligated to tell us.
Well, I did last time with that one Tauros, so I will let you know if I find something.
Excellent. Baggins, do you want to promote anything?
Well, I have been promoting the Innkeeper's Table, my board game podcast in the past, but we are actually coming up on the end of that for the foreseeable future. So instead, I will promote the Sandersonian Institute of Cosmere Studies, which is the podcast that I share with you, Splice, and our other friend Amy. We talk about Brandon Sanderson, his books, the Cosmere, and just it's a great. We have some great conversations, and it's a lot of fun. You should check it out.
All right. And of course, you all can find me at twitch.tv/splicestream, Kick, the same name. I've actually started work on what's going to be my biggest video yet, which is going to be Pokemon typing for all the Smash characters, but that's not going to be done for quite some time. So don't get excited for it just yet. But yeah, this has been a fun episode. I'm proud of it.
You're making a video of your explanations behind every typing?
Yes, it's gonna be be meaty.
Yeah. You gonna have any guests join in?
I might. I'll have to look into it.
Well, that was easy.